Well, Merry Christmas and welcome to another edition of Every Day We're Covering. Chris Parks, S.J. Munoz with you once again as we're into bowl season and the holiday season. S.J., Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, same to you. No days off over here for us. We're grinding right through that Christmas Eve. We'll get out of here before Santa slides his hind parts down the stone there. But yeah, like I said, Merry Christmas to you, and hope you guys enjoy as much time as you can with family. To everybody listening, hopefully you guys take advantage of those days off if you get them.
Yeah, no doubt. Hopefully, you enjoy the all that goes along with the holiday, whatever it is that you may choose to do. Some people just like to kind of hunker down, have some alone time, some peace and quiet, and some relaxation. Some others are zooming around all kinds of family gatherings and whatever. So whatever it is for you, we hope it's a good holiday season. We will hopefully deliver you some nice picks here to maybe put a dent in those credit card bills that are about to arrive on your doorstep here pretty soon. We didn't do so great this last week, but hey, you have good weeks and bad weeks, and we kind of struggled this last week with the Bulls. But I think we've got some fun matchups coming up. These next ones that we'll talk about, so hopefully it'll get a little bit better on that front. As we get rolling here, we also, of course, always are worried about what we're sipping on, and of course, no better time to do that when you're getting to stay at home and enjoy the holidays and have a beverage. I myself, unfortunately, have been fighting through one of those five-letter diseases that nobody likes to have. So I'm on the mend. So I was kind of iffy whether or not I'd even try anything. But I figured, what the hey, one's probably maybe can help me out here. So I did pull one out of the fridge. I haven't obviously been anywhere recently to get some new stuff, but I did have some Council's Kolsch left over in the fridge from fine folks at Full Fledged Brewing over there in Council Bluffs. So I went with a simple, straightforward one here for me tonight. SJ, how about yourself?
Yeah, I went pretty simple too, and talked kind of about zooming around. I actually had to make the annual trek at least for a couple days out into North Platte, there, western Nebraska. It's I know most people just Lincoln or Omaha. There's other stuff out there past there. You just got to drive for a little bit. I mean, not a lot, but there's a little bit out there. But I went by Peg Leg Brewing, just a local brewery there, and I just went with their Lincoln Lager. Pretty standard, just everyday lager, but it's some real good stuff. And I just want to also give a little shout out to Pals Brewing. I spent some time at that establishment over the weekend too, and got me some good drinks. So if you're ever just passing through, and if you don't plan to, stop there, and I know a lot of people probably don't, but if you do yourself a favor and grab some beers. They actually do, pound for pound. They have some pretty good breweries in that region of the state. So surprisingly, there are some good quality beers out there.
Awesome. Always good to get your hands on some stuff that's a little bit, different too. So that's fun. As we get into this week here, and we'll, of course, first off, recap of what we did here last week, but we want to give a little nod first off here to somebody who's also probably enjoying a fine beverage right now, and it's probably on some sandy shore.
Said, so, yeah.
Exactly.
You're a man of your word. Let's go.
Mr. Jerry Kill, who we had some fun talking about last week with his chicken shit rant, decided that it really did sound pretty good to him that he was going to go sit on the beach and drink some margaritas like he inferred, and he decided to step away from his job there at New Mexico State. So I guess the career is over there for Mr. Kill. It's been an interesting one for him for sure.
Yeah, obviously, kind of going by the comments, we hinted at this too. I always had no idea. We don't cover the team. We have no sources down there. Otherwise, we'd pick that game a little bit better.
Yeah.
but it just kind of seemed like he was kind of just setting it up for that. And I mean, like we said, if you got the ability to do so, why wouldn't you? Enjoy whatever life you got left, and you worked hard for it, so take advantage. But with these coaches, I wouldn't be surprised to see him back doing some type of analyst or doing something. They can't stay away. It's like a drug. I mean, no, do what you got to do if you love it that much. Keep going. But I don't know. Just thinks it's easier said than done. But you would think once you get to that a financially stable point, and especially these guys got money's not an issue. You think it'd just be like, let's enjoy life. But it's like I said, it's just an addiction, man. They can't get away.
That's true. It does seem that's always the case. And yeah, maybe it's just because they don't know anything else. I don't know. Yeah, you get stuck in that life, you can't get away from it. But we wish him the best. Wish Mr. Kill the best, and we'll miss his sound bites. That's for sure. He delivered some good ones on his way out.
YouTube page a YouTuber in the future or something. Keep us in the line, Jerry. Let's keep those rants going.
Yeah, let's connect somehow. So last week, here's how it went here. I'm just going to run through this fast here for you from last week's picks. We started off with the Frisco Bowl, UTSA laying 11.5 in that contest, and we did quite all right for ourselves in that one to start off the week as they pulled off the win 35-17 over Marshall. So that was a hitter. And then we moved on to Thursday night in the Boca Raton Bowl, and that was one where SJ and I were split. He was going with the Qs, I went with South Florida, and it was all South Florida. They went off to a hot start, led it 14-0 there early, and then were able to pull away 45-0 the final. Then it was the Friday night game and the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. Georgia Tech was a 30-17 winner over Central Florida, and we were looking for Central Florida there, so that did not go well for us. Then we moved on to Saturday, and also kind of a mixed bag there. We started off with Duke picking up a 17-10 win over Troy in the Birmingham Bowl, and that was a winner for SJ. He had the Dukies there, and then we were looking for the over at 44.5. That did not come through on that one, so I missed there. Then we moved on to the Camellia Bowl, and that was a winner for Northern Illinois, 21-19 over Arkansas State, and we were looking for under 53.5 on that one, so that ends up being an okay result there for us on that game. James Madison didn't come through, though. They played in the Armed Forces Bowl, and they lost 31-21 to Air Force. Air Force really dominated that game on the ground, and that was kind of a double whammy for us because we were looking for James Madison and the under, and neither were true. You really wouldn't have expected that from that type of game, but SJ, that was one that went sideways pretty fast.
That kind of a reminder, or even some advice. Live bet when you can, because some of these games, it's a motivation thing, and who really wants to be there and who kind of shows up to play. We did allude to the fact of Air Force having that tricky style of offense. If they could get it going, we were at least from my perspective, I believe you're kind of with me too. We're a little leery of saying if they can get rolling, it could be a little tricky. But we just thought maybe James Madison had enough athletes to overcome that. But like I said, motivation, and that's what it is. And it's hard to know, obviously, until they kick off or watch a couple of series of who wants to be there and who doesn't.
Well, and sometimes the matchup on paper doesn't end up playing out the matchup in real life. We talked about James Madison having a really good run defense, but they hadn't played a team that plays like that and that can run the dive part of that triple option so well, and that's what they did almost all game long. They were just handing it off left and right, A gap either side, and it was big gains for them up and down the field. They just won that battle up front, and that's why Air Force ran away with it.
The bad thing about it too is James Madison kind of had to petition their way in and kind of get a break, and then they go and lay. I don't know if they want to say lay an egg, but it's about as close to that as you can get. So that was a little bit disappointing when the fact that you went through all these kind of public charades and that sort, and then you just got freaking smashed. I mean, they literally just ran the ball straight at him, and they couldn't do nothing about it.
Yeah, exactly. The Idaho Potato Bowl was Georgia State winning 45-22, and that was not a good result for us. We were looking for the under 61.5 there, and that game exploded. Georgia State really dominated there pretty much the whole game. So as we move on now here to the 68 Ventures Bowl, it was South Alabama dominant over Eastern Michigan 59-10, and we did look for the over in that game, over 46, so that was a hit there for us. Jaguars came through, and after that game, actually, that was one that got a little bit hairy after the game was over. The teams were there standing, just singing the fight song, and one of the Eastern Michigan players came up and sucker punched a guy from behind as he was singing, and you didn't see it coming, obviously. And then everybody, of course, gets in a melee, and it's a little bit of an on-field brawl, and you hate to see stuff like that happen, no matter when it is. But even in that case, when it was long over, that was just ugly.
Well, I mean, kind of talk about and I'm pretty sure we have in the past, maybe offline or online, just, the stupidity of actually getting in a fight during a football game with all the equipment. That's what are you really going to do? And, of course, you always punch somebody in the head with a helmet on. After this, of course, they didn't have helmets on, so this is a different case. But either way, you're rolling up there solo against, 50, 60 some other guys. Doesn't seem like the best recipe for success. And it turned out that way. You kind of got stomped out a little bit. But, yeah, ugly game, but maybe even uglier after. And I don't know. I guess we all get caught up at the moment, but that's the type of stuff that it takes a certain type of individual to kind of go to those lengths.
Yeah, we'll see what the old former Drake coach Chris Creighton does about that there with the discipline on that Eastern Michigan side. That's a lot to deal with. The Las Vegas Bowl was an interesting game. It was kind of just a slugfest. Neither team could get the offense going for a long time in that game, but Northwestern ends up picking up the victory. 14-7 was the final, and that was a winner for SJ. He had the Cats there, and they were getting 6.5. So not only do they do that, but they win the game. I had Utah on the other side, and I'm not totally shocked, but I'm really impressed with the way that Northwestern came out and played. I thought that Utah was just such a tough team, and the way that they were able to play well in big games throughout the season against some pretty good teams out there. We thought in the Pac-12, thought that would carry over, but give Northwestern and especially their defense a lot of credit. They made a lot of like fourth down stops in that game to help them get the win.
One that could even have been a bigger margin of victory. They missed two pretty makeable field goals, and then they had a fourth and goal from the half-yard line that they didn't convert on. So it could have been a little bit more of a bigger victory for them, but they still obviously got it done. We kind of talked about ahead of time, Utah being able to impose their will was kind of been be the key to the game, and it didn't seem like they were able to do that for whatever the reason may be. That was a little bit even surprising on my end because obviously I said last week I wasn't expecting Northwestern to win. I just thought they could maybe keep it close within a field goal or so, and obviously did better than that. But that was a little bit maybe the biggest takeaway was that. I mean, I don't think they weren't playing hard. It's just Northwestern kind of drug them into that ugly, Big Ten West style of game, and they just kind of couldn't figure a way out of it. Utah couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even more credit to David Braun. Not only does he take a team that had one win last season out of an offseason scandal to a winning record to get to a bowl game, then he wins it against a pretty respected program too. So that's a heck of a season for the head coach there at Northwestern. One other thing that was pointed out in that game that I just thought I'd mention quick too, the quarterback there that played the game for Utah is actually in the portal, but he played the game. And there was a couple of times where the color guy kind of pointed that out. Hey, are we worried about this guy's focus? Obviously he had been in contact with other schools. They said he actually had made a visit not that long ago to another school. So, does he lose some of that focus during the bowl prep and those kinds of things? And I guess that's another little wrinkle that, gets involved in these games. Sometimes maybe these guys aren't as motivated as they would be otherwise.
Yeah, I suppose that's a possibility. I just kind of lean on that. Once you're kind of on the field and the bullets are flying, so to speak, I don't think you're necessarily worried about where you're going to be packing your bags and heading off to the next couple of weeks. But it's definitely not ideal. I would say that for sure. Mm-hmm. Because how could you be all in? At least maybe you're going to take some shortcuts and maybe not do some extra film study or things of that sort. I could easily see blowing off. But you still obviously, as a competitor and a D1 quarterback, you're gonna once you get out there, nothing other sort matters. But the lead up to it, I could definitely agree with that. Notion that maybe you're not going to prep as well as you maybe would have if you got at least a shot at the job next year, or if you're going to be a returning starter.
Yeah. The last game on the slate was the Hawaii Bowl, and we took 2 losses on that one because San Jose State they lost, and then it did not get to the overs either. It was 24-14 the final. Coastal Carolina picking up the win in that one. So despite a lot of guys out and a lot of guys moving on from Coastal, they still picked up that win. Before we move on to the next games, that was one thing I guess I thought I would bring up to you as well. So far, it really hasn't played out in a lot of these games where a team maybe has 2 or 3 guys that have either left, they're saying they're going somewhere else, or they're sitting out because they're going pro and they don't want to get hurt. Most of those teams have actually come out and played pretty well. Some of them even maybe better than they had during the regular season offensively. That's what's really been shocking. So that makes it even harder, I think, to pick these games sometimes.
Yeah, because you look at the fact that, how we talked about just with the Utah quarterback, he's kind of looking also with 1 foot out the door, but at the same time, it's an audition as well, for somebody that maybe either hasn't entered the portal yet or is thinking about it, and maybe you're going to kind of put some tape out there and see if anybody, anybody calls back, just to use not exactly, but just to use a simple phrase. I guess you could look at it that way too. Maybe some of these guys are using this opportunity to kind of, to build their resume a little bit and, get known and get some more eyeballs on you that you couldn't typically get in the past.
Yeah, one team that stood out to me early on in the day was Duke. Even though they had guys that had played a couple of games during the regular season, some of the other guys that came in and played and made big plays, they really didn't have a whole lot of experience. So their offense was cooking, and sometimes I guess maybe you just hit that dumb luck too. You guys are on the same page. Maybe they've been on the practice squad together and they have some kind of rapport between each other, and that just it starts to show on the field once they get the chance. So, very interesting how that's played so far. Let's jump into the picks here. We've got plenty of them for you. We're going to go 3 days. We've got so many games here coming up. We're going to have to do another pod here for you to get in the games once we get to the end of the run here before the New Year's holiday. But we're going to go the Tuesday the 26th through Thursday the 28th. So we've got 3, 3, and 4. 3 games on Tuesday the 26th, starting with the Quick Lane Bowl, and that's at Ford Field in Detroit at 1 o'clock. Bowling Green taking on Minnesota. Minnesota, a 3.5-point favorite. The number is 39.5. SJ, what you feeling here?
Actually, kind of piggybacking off just what we were talking about. I know Minnesota's had some issues with quarterback, and there were stories that they were paying basically kind of like the blue chips deal, a bag of cash for to get Kaliak Manis to go ahead and decide to play for them. True or not, who knows? Like we said, we talked about the NIL stuff. You just gotta kind of take it for what it is, and who knows what's fact and what's fiction. But I don't know. I just don't kind of like how they ended the season. Getting in with a losing record just doesn't really speak to me too much. I understand why it happened, and of course I accept it. Don't turn it down. A bowl game's a bowl game still. I do think though Bowling Green's gonna take care of Minnesota. I'm gonna take them to win outright. Not even the points. I think they're just gonna win straight up.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was going to say the same thing. I think you might get a decent number on this if you take Bowling Green on the money line. They won 5 of their last 6 games. They beat a Georgia Tech team that just played really well in a bowl game earlier in the season. So they do have a pretty decent win on their resume, against what you'd call a Power 5 team. So they're not going to be afraid of the situation. I'm sure they're motivated to be there. So I'll take Bowling Green as well. Let's go roll with them for the first one. First Responders Bowl in Dallas at 4:30 that day. Texas State is a 4-point favorite, taking on Rice. 59.5 is the number here in this game. Texas State, I was one of the people that kind of jumped on the bandwagon early in the season when they picked up that opening win against Baylor. That was one that kind of turned a lot of heads early in the year. They kind of had a ho-hum up and down season after that. They probably underachieved from that point on, but I do think they have a little bit better of a line up front that's going to let them run the ball here pretty decently in this game. Rice is a little bit more sporadic with what they do on offense. They rely a lot on the McCaffrey kid, but I think Texas State's the better team. I'll lay that 4. Where are you going here?
I'm going to do the exact opposite. This thing is going to be a close one. We haven't had many, but I think these teams are a little bit more familiar, just being from similar part of the country. Obviously, it's Texas, so nothing's super close to each other. But kind of Texas State, I know they've had some pretty decent wins, but also they did end up losing 2 out of the final 3 on the season. Just hoping the momentum thing. It seems that's the only thing that's kind of held firm over these bowls is. It's hard to pick who's going to be motivated, who wants to be there type thing, or what players care if they play or not. But the one thing that has, kind of rang true is, whoever gets hot, it's gone. It's over. Like, it's done. Like, there hasn't been very many comebacks. I mean, more than, 7 to 10 points. There's no, there's none of that going on. At least not yet. We hope that changes, obviously. But in these early, few days of bowls, it's whoever's got the hot hand. There's no coming back from it. It's over by halftime, a lot of these games.
Yeah, the only one that we saw, I think that was or that I watched quite a bit of one day was the Western Kentucky deal. They came back, but that's been the only game so far that's had any sort of flip the script kind of situation. Everybody else, it's been a blowout or maybe a close game. All right, so you're going the other way there. Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix, Chase Field, and this is the one that if I'm going to put an emoji that has a champagne bottle on it, I think this is the one where I'm going. I love the Kansas Jayhawks in this game, taking on UNLV. Jason Bean, they're going to have most of their guys that are going to play. This is a very senior laden Kansas team that's built the program back up for Lance Leipold. So they're going to be motivated and want to be there. Not to say that UNLV isn't, because they've certainly had a nice turnaround, but they're not going to be able to match up in this game. Even though it's a high number, I'd still lay that 13 to get the good money on it, and I'll take Kansas.
Yeah, I agree with all that you said, but I do think that it's too big of a number. I know they got the starting quarterbacks back and all that, but he hasn't played a competitive game for how long now? I just think they're going to be they're the better team, but I don't think they're going to be hitting on all cylinders with that. Missing the few games that he's missed and just kind of coming back. So I could see a 10-point win. I just don't think they're going to get to that 13. And give my UNLV boys one more chance. So that's part of it as well. I'm giving them a chance to redeem themselves. I got them on the list of next season, perhaps, if they can pull this one off.
Okay, all right, I'll give it to you. We'll move on to Wednesday now, the 27th, the Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland. This is a 1 o'clock contest, and Virginia Tech is laying 10.5 against Tulane. And this will be an interesting game. The number's 44.5. What are you looking at here?
This was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Like, I understand the names. Of course, you just don't even look at the records or anything, and you cover up the do the blind resume, whatever they call it for the in March Madness time. And you would obviously Virginia Tech easily, but Tulane's 11-2, had a pretty solid season, and 10.5. That's a lot of points. I think I'm gonna go ahead and I think Tulane can win it outright. I like an upset. Haven't hit on many upsets this year, but I think this is one of those I've kind of pointed to before when you see something and you don't really get it. So there's got to be a reason. Something's up basically in my mind. Obviously, last week proved that my mind's not always correct, but at the same time, I don't. When I looked at the bowl slate, I was surprised that Virginia Tech even was in a bowl this year. That's how kind of far they'd fallen off. Mm-hmm. So I think Tulane can get it done, and I'll go ahead and just take them outright money line. The book I checked last, obviously, I'll vary, but they were plus 310. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good chance to make some money there.
Yeah. Virginia Tech was one of those teams that really had to scratch and claw to get into a bowl game. They started the season just horrendous, and they did turn it around a little bit. It does sound like the quarterback, Michael Pratt, probably is not going to play for Tulane because he is looking for the next step, the next level. So that is something that hurts them a little bit. But even if so, I'm still with you. I think that Tulane can win this game. I'm still going to take the points just because I think they can stay obviously within that 10.5. They may win it outright, but I'm going to give them to stay within that point range there. The Duke's Mayo Bowl is in Charlotte. That's a 4:30 game on Wednesday, and that will feature North Carolina and West Virginia. West Virginia a 6.5-point favorite right now. The number is 54.5. And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this one.
So we don't. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're gonna start. You're gonna break out your John Denver. Let's go.
Give me your best roads, version, baby. Here we go. I don't know why. It's probably a team I should hate, really, because they tried to make a fake rivalry between Iowa State and West Virginia back when they were trying to do those Thanksgiving Day game type things. But
I got you.
That's changed. So. No, I like the way they played, and Garrett Green, their quarterback, has been hot here lately. He had over 700 yards in their last couple of games. They're a pretty good offensive team when they get it going. There's been some games where they haven't, but then on the Carolina side, obviously they don't have their quarterback. May is out and off to greener pastures, so they've got some work to do on that front. And they struggled down the stretch too. So I just like the motivation factor. West Virginia's going to be amped to play in this game. They really turned their season around and really this season saved their coach's job because Neil Brown was on the hot seat before it began. So I'm going West Virginia laying that 6.5.
I'm kind of going against the grain here again and just kind of thinking it's got to even out at some point. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm not necessarily thinking West Virginia is going to lose, but I think North Carolina can stay within that spread. So I'm going to take them to cover the points. But I'm not going to be surprised if West Virginia wins. I'm just maybe a 4 or 5 point win, something like that. Obviously, recent history doesn't help that mindset there. But at some point, especially when you get teams that are a little bit more consistent and you can kind of bank on them a little bit more, I think it favors more of a close game with teams like that. And even a couple more we're going to talk about here still on Wednesday that just seem more chance than not, it's going to be a competitive game. But as we've seen, that might not play out that way. But just on paper, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see Mac Brown get the mayo dumped on top of his noggin, but we'll see how it plays out. Holiday Bowl in San Diego. This is at Petco Park at 7 o'clock that evening. Louisville laying 7 against USC. Obviously, no Caleb Williams for USC. And it's 58.5 points is the number. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of one of those you really had to think about. Just it's a lot. Doesn't seem right for to be that fair. But obviously the quarterback issue plays heavily into that. The problem I'm having is I don't know if USC can maybe do enough offensively to hit that number, because I did like that total when I first saw it, but then kind of looking at just what offense have they generated outside of Caleb Williams. And I feel kind of I feel like it's a stupid move, and some like again like I'm like there's someone gonna get freaking punked here, and there's something going on that maybe it's not gonna happen at Louisville, but I don't know. I just can't see them scoring any points. I'm gonna have to take Louisville to cover too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going Louisville here. USC has proven time and time again that they cannot stop anybody with that defense. So I expect Louisville to be able to put up enough points. Not that they're an explosive team on that front, but they'll do enough to beat this USC team. And especially, like you said, where's the offense going to come from now for USC? So, yeah, not going to be able to keep up. And Louisville's defense is good enough. They get a lead, they're going to hang on to it. We move on to the Texas Bowl down in Houston at 8 o'clock that night. Texas A&M taking on Oklahoma State. It's an old-fashioned Big 12 rivalry matchup, and 53.5 is the number. This is obviously a game that could be fun. Texas A&M with a whole lot going on outside of the walls. They've got a new coach. That's been a whole drama-filled situation. A bunch of their players are into the portal and leaving. Not really sure who's playing for them. They've had issues at quarterback anyways. Oklahoma State, the big key linchpin, I think, in this game is what was Ollie Gordon going to do? Was he going to play? Is he transferring? He said so far that he's coming back to Oklahoma State and that he's going to play in this game too, because he was a little dinged up at the end of the season also. So with that, if they're going to be able to have Gordon on the field, and I think they can run the ball in this game, and they're going to be more motivated to be there, even though it's just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road from A&M. I still like Oklahoma State to be able to win this one. They're getting 2 points, and the number is 53.5. So I think being able to get a couple, I think they can even win the game outright. So I'd take a look at that money line and see what the number is.
Yeah, this was a bit of a no-brainer for me, and it has nothing to do with, I mean, just like you said, the old Big 12 matchup. I'm going to overs. I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think Oklahoma State could pull away late. Just been being the more explosive team consistently throughout the season. But yeah, I don't see how these two teams could have a low-scoring game, regardless of if they don't have the athletes that we're typically used to seeing on these teams. It's kind of set up perfectly for that, 35-30 type game, or whatever, 38-35, what have you. Even in the 40s is obviously not out of the realm of possibility, or even a 50-7 butt kick, and that gets us over the number, and you can see that happening as well.
Yeah, you got lots of good options there. We move on to Thursday, the 28th. The first couple games we're playing in baseball stadiums. The Fenway Bowl in Boston. It's a home game for Boston College. They take on SMU. 10 o'clock start early in the morning. SMU is a 10-point favorite. The number is 49.5. What are we thinking here, SJ?
I think it's going to be a rough day for the Bostonians, if that's what they call themselves. I don't really know if that's the accurate term, but don't really care. Not a fan of that city. I think SMU is going to win and win easy. I'll take them to cover that 10. I might even do a little bit of adjust the line on the book. I'm going to make a play on and maybe even put them up to 12 to 13 points.
All right, I'm with you. I'm going SMU. There's been a couple of transfers from BC. SMU, even though they have been playing their second-string quarterback here lately, he did play in the championship game that they won and played well. So I like the Mustangs as well. Pinstripe Bowl, 1:15 p.m. So we're moving over to New York City there to play at Yankee Stadium. Rutgers.
Subway Series Part 3, right?
Yeah, Subway Series. Yeah, maybe you can catch both. I don't know. It might be close enough. Rutgers is a 1-point favorite taking on Miami. 40.5 is the number. So we've got a new quarterback here for Miami. Now, this was a that I was shocked by when I saw this, that Miami's 1-10 in their last 11 bowl games.
Mm,
That's crazy,
yeah.
crazy, especially for a program like that. You would not expect that. I don't really know. I mean, all the things going on player wise, you'd think, yeah, Rutgers is going to have an advantage here, but I'm not confident enough in them to be able to make sure that they win the game either. I just think that it's going to end up being that they score enough points to get over that pretty low number of 40.5. So I'm going to go with the overs here in this game just because I really don't know. Got a hard time picking a winner.
Yeah, I was kind of, thinking just being more in your neighborhood, give them the home field edge maybe because that was as close as in my mind. I couldn't really, lean on anything. But then hearing that stat kind of pumped me over the edge. I'll take Rutgers to win it outright. Not definitely going to be the lower end of the confidence that we put out there for the listeners. But I think Rutgers can get it done. I'll take them to win outright.
Okay, going with the Scarlet Knights there. Pop Tarts Bowl down in Orlando. 4:45
Disappointing.
p.m. I know, 4:45 p.m. Who eats Pop Tarts at 4:45?
After school snack, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, what a major marketing fail.
I mean, you got one starting at 10 a.m.
Exactly.
You
Ask
go
them to
just
trade. Come on. And it's on the same side of this country too, so it's not like you're messing with time zones. I mean, come on. So K State 2.5 point favorite right now against NC State. 47.5 is the number here. And what we got going on here, SJ?
Well, I think it's one of those that we've been good to you, so I think we know where you're going to go. But I do think NC State can get it done, and maybe my book was had their head up their arse when I checked, but they were actually getting plus money on the money line. So I'm going to go ahead and take them to win outright again. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think they can get it done. Maybe a field goal later. Shoot, maybe they end up blowing them out. We'll see, but I think NC State can get it done. I know they've been pretty good this season. They picked them a couple times as underdogs, and I guess here we are again.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you, especially with what's going on at K-State. Their quarterback, Will Howard's gone. He's going to USC. They've had a number of other guys, too, like at the wide receiver spot. They're really thin there. So I feel bad for the kid that's stepping in there at the quarterback position because he's not going to have a lot to throw to in this game, it doesn't seem like. So I like NC State's position here. I'm going to take him as well. See what kind of good number you can get on that deal there on the money line. The Alamo Bowl, this is always usually a pretty good game, and I expect it to be in this matchup too. 8:15 p.m. Arizona's taking on Oklahoma. 2.5 point favorites for Arizona here in this contest. And, this is one of those, if you look at it, like we talked about before the bowl season started, motivation, Arizona is going to be the team that is very motivated to play this game. They have something to prove. They obviously won a lot of big games throughout the year that nobody expected them to, and now they've got a chance to prove it against a name. That OU on the helmet. They're going to be ready to go. OU's got some changes. Dylan Gabriel gone. They'll move in another, great player. I'm sure they're at quarterback and not have too much of an issue with that. But the way that Fafita's played there down the stretch for Arizona, their offense is cooking. So I'm going to go with the Cats to win it there and, lay that 2.5.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pick against Arizona how they finished the season, and also just Oklahoma has. I'd be interested to see their last few bowl games because it seems like they seem to be on the even as a favorite the short end of it, but. I'm still going to pick them. Again, I was getting, they're underdogs, so I'm getting plus on the money line. I could see it kind of going either way. I do not think this will be a close game. I think whoever wins is going to win handily.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns one way or the other. So basically, just kind of hoping to get a long shot bet here, and it's more about the financials of it than it is because I could honestly see it going either way. And like I said, conventional wisdom would say, Arizona's been rolling into the postseason, but seems so far this bowl season, the conventional, what you think's going to happen hasn't really been happening. So I'm going to hope for once it works in my favor because it hasn't so far, at least not more than it hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, that's kind of going to be the ultimate test of, is the motivation thing that big of a deal? Because to me, Arizona's going to be way more motivated to play in that game. I know Oklahoma could probably give a rip that they're playing, in the Alamo Bowl, but we'll see. I don't know. It'd be a fun game to see how that plays out.
Well, I mean, you would assume too they're going to have a pretty good following there. Of course, they do have pretty good traveling fans, but that's not That's
Yeah,
not too far of a jaunt from Oklahoma or Norman, I guess
yeah,
Oklahoma City, Norman area down to San Antonio. So
very true. All right, that's what we got for you here for that stretch of games. We'll be back with another rundown for you once we get to of course, all the big games coming up then over the New Year's holiday weekend and then the playoff as well, and we'll break all that down for you. So we hope you join us for all that fun. We hope you have a great Christmas, as we mentioned. We hope that you continue to follow us and share us, whether that be through social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at SJMBets, at CherokeeCP. We usually share it through other platforms as well. If you're looking around, Spotify and then Google Podcast and Amazon, places where you can listen and you can rate and share and give us all that great feedback there as well. We usually put up a poll with the show so you can answer that along with us and have a little fun. We hope you have some fun, relaxing, watching some bowl games, having a good time here during the holiday season. Doesn't get much better than this time of year, SJ.
yeah, it's kind of the time to live it up, even if you're just sitting around the house. Doesn't really, like you said, I can't think of many things better to do than just sit on your arse and just relax and enjoy some games and maybe a little eggnog or whatever your drink of choice may be this time of year. Of course, we're gonna always be drinking some good craft beer, so stick around and like you said, get in touch with us if you guys have any suggestions, things you want us to try as far as drinks that we have on the show, or even just maybe you want to go head to head with us, or just pick our brain a little bit. We're up for whatever the listeners are into. We're down to accommodate in within reason.
Yeah. Cheers to that. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us again this week for another week of Everyday We're Covering. We'll see you next week for some more covers.